Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day wherever you're at and whenever you're watching this. We're gonna be jumping into some Warhammer Fantasy here with, yet again, Pancreas No Work. We're gonna be checking out Ogres are the best Warhammer race to live as. So yeah, links will be down below in the description as always to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to Pancreas No Work's channel. Please do me the favor, if you enjoy this video as we go through it, click the link, go over there, give it a like, check out his channel. If you enjoy his content, be sure to give him a sub. Makes a lot of great content for the various Warhammer universes. So yeah, if you'd like to join us as well when I do these reactions live, join our conversations that we have before, during, and after, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to become a YouTube member. So check all that stuff out if you want to take your sport to the next level. And yeah, I just greatly appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out, watching the video. You know, if you enjoyed the video of mine here with my commentary and reaction, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me in the channel grow and it lets the YouTube algorithm gods know you enjoy this kind of content and you want to see some more. But for now, we're going to jump into this. Again, we're going to be checking out the Ogres here in Warhammer Fantasy from Pancreas No Work.
With the release of Total Warhammer 3, I've been spending a lot of time playing as the races of the old fantasy world, seeing what they believe in, what they cherish the most, and how they act on and off the battlefield as I absorb lore about these factions like a bulimic sponge. And in a conversation that I promise you will see how it's relevant, one of my friends asked me if I would rather be a Russian soldier during World War I or live in the world of Attack on Titan. Obviously the correct answer here is suicide by any means possible. I mean, both of those options are absolutely horrendous, but it got...
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna die either way. I guess maybe taking World War I would probably be the better option, just because you actually have a chance of living then. But due to the rumbling that happens in Attack on Titan, you're dead, I think, if you're not, you know, from the island. Spoilers if you haven't seen Attack on Titan. I should have said that beforehand, I guess, but it's been a while since this has been out already.
Got me thinking, if there was one faction in any of the Warhammer settings I had to live as, which one would it be? Which Warhammer faction would give me the most amount of happiness?
Honestly, I think I would probably rather live in the 40k universe, just because, like, for as grim dark as it sounds, there are so many worlds in the galaxy that there are plenty of them that never see any war whatsoever. There's plenty of worlds out there where you can just live your life, be a part of the Imperium, you know, work, have a family, and have just a normal life, you know? Whereas in Warhammer Fantasy, it sounds like you have a much greater chance of running into vampires or orcs or chaos or any other number of things that are surrounding the Empire. So yeah.
And satisfaction in life where I suddenly would become a member of them like the world's most self-inserted isekai. And I came to the conclusion that the faction I would pick is the Ogres of Fantasy. Now there may be, you know, some civilized debate over me picking the damn Ogres for this. I mean, I do some for the Elder after all, and the Elder when they're not fighting are basically a perfect post-scarcity society. Or perhaps you say that the Necrons would be perfect, with them all being immortal beings who can repair their bodies after more or less...
I mean, the thing about the Necrons, right, is like there's only a select few of them that actually are like essentially conscious and have their own free will. The rest of them are basically just mind-wiped automatons, right? Or am I mistaken?
Complete destruction, or the High Elves / Lumineth Realm Lords, or one of the Dwarfs, or God knows how many other factions you might say is best to live as. And to be fair, a lot of factions in Warhammer do have pretty decent standards of living, even by our real life standards. Not just the standards of living of a peasant who has to deal with demons from hell every other Tuesday. But even taking all of these factions into consideration, I still think the Ogres are the faction and race I'd choose to be if I had to pick one to live as in either Warhammer setting, 40k, Fantasy, or Age of Sigmar. Here's why. So the Ogres like food, right? That's literally their whole shtick as a race. They love nothing more than to eat mountains upon mountains of food. On top of that, they're incredibly strong, stupid, brutish semi-nomads living in the mountains of Morn, located in scenic middle of nowhere in the Warhammer world, surrounded by incredibly hostile wildlife. They spend all their time eating, killing things to eat, and making mercenary companies out of themselves so they can afford to buy more things to eat. Why on God's green earth would I say a race of gluttonous...
They sound like gluttonous versions of hobbits, right? They just like to eat and drink and party and then kill things so that they can eat them and drink them and party. right? Like they literally are just like big, fat, gluttonous versions of the hobbits from Lord of the Rings. That's basically what the ogres kind of are.
Morons like the ogres are the best race to be if you had to live in any of the settings. First, let's discuss strength. Do you know what's stronger than an ogre in terms of beings that the ogres will regularly make contact with? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. From Khorne to the people of Bretonnia to Cathay to even most demons of chaos, nothing is stronger than an ogre. You might say that the average ogre isn't nearly as strong as a bloodthirster or one of the dragons the high elves can wield or any other number of elite units in the Warhammer settings, and you'd be right. But the thing is, how often are the ogres encountering those? How often does the ogre mercenary unit employed by the orcs wake up and find out that Scarbrand has wandered into the camp? Not very often. Usually an ogre will wake up, find the nearest Noblar, eat it whole, and then walk over to the cafeteria for breakfast proper. And he'll do something like, I don't know, hire himself out to a caravan of humans in exchange for a couple dozen pounds of meat. Or just eat the caravan, because it's easier to do that. Either works for the ogres.
Or
the point is that in terms of the average day-to-day life of one of these fat bastards, an ogre isn't going to be outmatched by anyone short of the bigger ogres in his tribe. So there's basically no chance of experiencing things like the Empire does and waking up to find that chaos has torched your entire province and there's nothing you can do about it. An Imperial citizen will weep and desperately try to figure out what to do with themselves, assuming that survival is even possible for them. An ogre will just vor the Chaos Invaders and go back to whatever he was doing 5 minutes beforehand. As long as you aren't an ogre unlucky enough to find yourself in the same postcode as Gotrek and Felix, you're pretty much unchallenged in day-to-day life. And in terms of political power, well, it's solid enough. Sure, you'll never see an ogre arguing for the kingdom's trading rights with Ulthuan, but who gives a damn? Not the ogres. In terms of political power, they have absolutely everything they need. Most people the ogres come into contact with can be bullied into giving them pretty much whatever they want. Some governor in Araby can be pretty easily convinced to give an ogre tribe all the gold it needs when the other option is being devoured alive. Sure, there's no ogre emissary in Altdorf, but who gives a shit? There's no point in the ogres doing anything like that because it takes more brain power than they have to turn that kind of influence into burger meat. Which nonetheless brings me to my next point. They're neighbors. Now even
I mean, what kind of political decision making would the ogres and Altdorf have anyway for any kind of representation other than to be like, send meat, Gavlan wheel, Gavlan deal, send meat.
with their immense power and girth. If they were next door to the strongest factions in the Warhammer world like Chaos or the Empire or one of the Elves, they still probably wouldn't be worth choosing to be the Warhammer race to live as. But those factions aren't their neighbors. Their neighbors are dwarfs who never leave their goddamn holes unless continent-wide destruction or greater is about to occur, the Skaven, who are basically free food as far as an ogre is concerned, and Cathay, who send caravans of money and or food to the ogres through the mountains of Morn. Not intended for the ogres, sure, but that's where it ends up. Their non-civilized neighbors include Yetis, also known as food, Mournfangs, also known as cavalry and or food, and Stonehorns, really big cavalry and or really big food. No one around them is a threat to their civilization or way of life. In fact, because they're often hired as mercenaries,
now, I've yet to play as the ogres in Total War Warhammer 3. I need to play them.
their neighbors encourage their gluttonous ways of life. So as an ogre, not only would you never be conquered, you just end up being encouraged to help your neighbors with their issues in return for even more food. Your way of life is literally never in danger. Speaking of neighbors, if you're an ogre, you have an entire group of beings dedicated to making your life easier. Noblars. Now sometimes Noblars are goblins that serve the ogres, sometimes they're something else entirely, just happen to look like goblins, sometimes they're a distinct subspecies of goblin and greenskin. I don't care what they are, and neither should you. What matters is that as an ogre, these bastards are at your beck and call. Need some expendable units in a fight? The Nobblers are great at catching arrows with their faces. Need someone to ferry supplies and materials for you? The Nobblers aren't busy doing anything, they'll hold all your shit. Need something to eat? The Nobblars will get it for you, and if there's nothing on the menu they bring you want, then no worries. Just eat the fucking Nobblar. As an ogre, you have an entire race of beings dedicated to being your servant for all your menial tasks. If you don't want to do it, you probably don't have to do it. Now, assuming you are a functioning human being, concepts like an entire race devoted entirely to servitude might make you think troubling thoughts like rights inherent to all living beings and the like. You know who doesn't have those thoughts? Ogres. They don't have any philosophical thoughts like that. They're too stupid to even think up words like philosophical. Time spent saying all the syllables is time that could be better spent eating. An ogre will wake up, eat,
the more time they're thinking is the more time they're not eating.
Shit, then eat again, maybe have sex, definitely eat, possibly fight something, definitely eat once more, then go back to sleep. This is the entirety of what the ogre thought process is devoted to. Does contemplating your place in the world help you get more food to shove down your greasy, fat throat? Nope, so why bother with it? Discussing what it means to truly be alive won't feed the tribe, so shut the hell up and go hunting. You're never gonna have a midlife crisis or a panic as you realize you're at a dead-end job or anything like that as an ogre, because they're not smart enough to have those things. But even beyond mundane stuff like that, the ogres are stupid enough that they can't comprehend that the world they live in is profoundly awful. Take the Elder back over in 40k. They have to sit and think on the fact that not only does the galaxy they live in suck beyond measure, but a lot of that is due as a direct result of their species' actions. Or the Space Marines and their grim, miserable quest to fight back the undefeatable swarms of chaos, the Tyranids, Necrons, and more. They sure as shit aren't happy people. Or maybe the Dwarven Kingdoms, to go back to fantasy, watching as their realms slowly fade away in an unending swarm of green football morons. All of these races can understand history, loss, and the overwhelming odds facing them at every moment of the day. But the ogres? They're too dumb to realize what they face. They see an unending horde of Norskins and think me and the tribe will be eaten well tonight. They hear humans complaining about how chaos is once again raised and ruined their lands, and they just don't understand the problem. The only thing
they see a giant force of enemy units in front of them and they're like, oh, we're gonna be eating good tonight, boys.
Ogre will be sad about is if he didn't get enough food that day because he isn't smart enough to factor anything else in. If you were an ogre, 99% of the time you'd be too stupid to be anything but content at the very least. And yet, ogres aren't completely done. They aren't like the other hunger-obsessed faction, the Tyranids, and they certainly aren't like orcs or Khornates, where your brain is so neglected and underused you may as well remove it, like an appendix or my pancreas. Ogres are smart enough to have a religion about things beyond beating the shit out of the guy next to you. Sure, it's a religion all about eating, which is like one step up, but it's still enough to provide them with spiritual contentment. An ogre eats and he feels closer to the maw. He murders something to eat later and he feels close to the maw. Ogres are intelligent enough to want to make pilgrimages to the great maw they worship, so clearly there's some kind of brains at work here. Even beyond that, ogres are on incredibly rare occasions able to mimic cultures of the races they often become mercenaries for. Sometimes, if an ogre spends enough of his time around dwarfs, he might decide that it is time for him to become a slayer and find glorious death in battle, eating everything he kills until that finally happens. Now, dwarfs are a proud people, not very fond of others looking down on them. In a metaphorical sense, they don't really have a choice in the matter in a literal sense. But even they find it fucking hilarious when an ogre decides that it's time to honor Grimnir with suicide by monster, and the ogre is—
I mean, yeah. Who wouldn't find that funny, right? Like, you hire a bunch of ogre mercenaries as a dwarf, and then all of a sudden they join you as slayers and go on quests with you, and, you know, to kill whatever, seeking death and food.
able to find meaning in his life from this. In other cultures, they might find satisfaction in the finest elven wines or learning the latest gossip about the elector counts. And those other cultures aren't going to tell them no or look down on them, because I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be the one to explain to the 10-foot tall, 8-foot wide murder machine how stupid he looks trying to read a Shakespeare play. Are you gonna be that guy? Do you know what all of this ultimately means? They're at the perfect spot between smart and stupid. They're smart enough to find meaning in life from all sorts of things, but they're dumb enough to not care or even understand that their world is the shithole to end all shitholes. Ogres are the best race possible.
The ogres in fantasy sound like what ogrins in 40k wish they could be.
Possible to be if you had to choose one Warhammer race from whatever setting. And now I have my final point. Food.
But then again, ogrins in 40k, like, as long as they're being told they're serving the Emperor, they don't give a shit. They're happy too, you know?
Ogres love food. It's the most important thing about their culture, race, and whatever else about them you can think of. Food and their stomachs are so goddamn important to them that on an ogre, the only body part you usually see armored is their gut. What about food is so great it's worth mentioning as a positive for being an ogre? Imagine this life. You're so simple that you wake up and your only major concern is grabbing a nice, hot meal. There are no mortgage payments or phone/car bills, no politics or celebrity garbage to deal with. You just wake up and find the nearest snack, which may damn well be one of your servants. There is not a single miserable ogre in existence because this life is fucking perfect for finding happiness. Your purpose and wants in life are to eat, you excel at killing things to eat, your culture encourages you to eat. If you suddenly became an ogre, all of your worries would melt away as your gut grew 3 sizes that day. All you care about is food. And because ogres just like food and don't give a shit about things like counting calories, the food pyramid, or not eating the fat directly out of a pig carcass, you'll eat everything. An entire world of flavors open up to you as an ogre. Am I saying this all because I am at core a fat, lazy bastard? Yes. Yes, I am. But there's more to it than that. There's the beauty and simplicity of the ogre life calling to me. And the ogres don't take it to the level that chaos followers do. There's no ogre followers of the Great Maw in the same way that there are followers of Khorne, Slaanesh, or the other gods. When a cultist follows a chaos god, that's it. Whatever their god wants.
What if the ogres become such a large and great race, and their belief in the Great Maw becomes so powerful that the Great Maw becomes a new Chaos God. How crazy would that be? How crazy would that be? And how out of left field would that be? I'd be here for it though.
Now that's all they can look forward to, but ogres can do other things. An ogre can worship his god by eating and decide that he wants to arm wrestle every dwarf in the village as part of his self-identity on the side. An ogre can eat a medieval village's worth of people during the day, and at night he can become an artist. It might be art painted using nothing but ogre shit, but it's still art. Whatever you want to do as an ogre, you can do it, as long as you remember to eat twice your body weight in food that day. You have all the freedom you could possibly want, as long as you remember to supersize that order of fries. So go, dear viewers, go forth with the knowledge that if you had to pick a single race to live as in one of the Warhammer settings, it would be the ogres. Thank you for watching, you fat, beautiful bastards, and take care out there.
Alright. There we go. There we go. I mean, honestly, I'm convinced. It sounds like an ogre does have a great life, you know? The only thing you really got to worry about is if you're a smaller ogre in your tribe, and then you get picked on by other ogres, or potentially killed or eaten, I guess. I guess that could happen. But I mean, yeah, like you said, you ain't got to worry about bills, no mortgage payment. You ain't got to worry about, you know, what your job is for the day, whatever. You just wake up, figure out what you're eating for that day, and then do whatever the hell you want to do. Because there's really nothing that can stop you from doing whatever it is you want to do. And you can go out and seek out, you could become a mercenary for any other races and learn about their culture and maybe even become one with their culture and, you know, find a way of life with that while eating whatever you want to, you know, or whatever. It actually does sound like a pretty good life. I'm convinced. Sign me up to be an ogre. Sign me up. Sounds like a great life. But yeah, that was Ogres Are the Best Warhammer Race to Live As by Pancreas Network. Links down below in the description to the original video with my commentary and reaction and to Pancreas Network's channel. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video of his, be sure to go over there, give it a like, hit that sub button on his channel, and check out the rest of his content over there. He's got a Patreon, you know, check out his Patreon for anything over there if you want to take support for him to the next level, etc. But yeah, like I was saying, I actually, this is the one of the races that I haven't actually played as yet in Warhammer Fantasy. I was gonna say 40k, but in Total War Warhammer 3. I don't know why. It just hasn't like been a race where I've been like, yeah, let's do a campaign with them as. There's other races that have had more interest in me, or doing campaigns with some of the other generals, you know, that have been released from DLCs and stuff like that. So, but I'm gonna have to give them a try, see what they're all about. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and the channel grow. And yeah, hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. If you want to take your support from my channel to the next level, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I have to offer. So if you want to become a member, check all that stuff out, and yeah, see if anyone have any interest for it. Thank you for watching this video all the way through here to the end. If you're still watching, I greatly appreciate it. And hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. We'll see you on the next one.